my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel BandysBooks, and today we are here with a Tag Tuesday video. We're going to be doing the How Do You Rate Your Book tag. I originally saw this tag on Just Book Girl TV, and I thought that she did a great job of talking about the different ratings for books, and I thought this tag sounded really interesting, so I'm here to give it a try. The original creator of this tag was Novelle Novels, and I will be linking both of those channels in the description below. Question number 1, how often do you DNF and what makes you DNF? So I rarely DNF. I think I have less than 5 DNFs this year so far. And what makes me DNF a book is if I give a book 3 different tries over like different periods of times, and each time I try to read it, I get, 50 or 60 pages in and I'm just not feeling the book. The reason that I have that 3-strike rule is because I have had it happen before where I wasn't feeling a book. I put it down and then I read it at a different time and really enjoyed it. In fact, one of my favorite books, The Night Circus, happened that way for me. The first time I tried to read it, I was like, this is boring and slow and dull. I put it down. I came back a couple months later in a different place in life, read it and loved it. So I always try to give books 3 good tries. If after that 3rd try it's really still not working, then it's just not the book for me. Question number 2, do you rate books 1 star? So I will rate a book 1 star, but it's very, very rare. This is the same thing. I think I have maybe rated like 1 or 2 books 1 stars. For me, it's just like saying, it's one of the worst books I've ever read that I actually managed to get through. And so I don't do that very often. Question number 3, what is a 2-star book for you? So for me, a 2-star book is a book that I've managed to finish reading, but had some pretty catastrophic problems. Usually it's not going to be just one single problem. So it won't be just like, oh, hey, the plot wasn't that great, or I really hated the characters, or it was a little cliche. It's going to be like, oh, it was cliche, the plot sucked, the characters weren't well developed, the description was non-existent, there was a lot of telling instead of showing, the pacing was really uneven, things like that. I won't really rate a book 2 stars unless I feel like it has really, really big structural problems. Question number 4, is a 3-star book a good book for you? I wouldn't say it's a good book for me, but it's not a bad book either. For me, 3 stars is like, meh, it was okay. I equate a 3-star to being like a C on a term paper. It means that you still passed the class, but you didn't pass it with flying colors. You just did what you needed to get by, and that's pretty much what a 3-star is for me. The book was adequate, it was enjoyable enough, I didn't hate it, there weren't major structural problems, but for whatever reason, it just isn't a remarkable book to me. It's not gonna stand out. When you ask me for recommendations down the road, you're not gonna get a 3-star rate from me. If I rated it 3 stars, I probably won't really recommend it. Not to say that I would not recommend it either, just that like in my recommendations, like when I'm offering them, I would never give it. Question 5, what does 4 stars mean to you? So 4 stars mean to me that this book was a good book. It was very solid, but there were just maybe a couple minor things that were keeping it from being a 5-star read for me. Usually it's like an unevenness in pacing, or like a plot loophole that doesn't get closed up, or something where you could still really, really enjoy the book, really get into it, but it just wasn't quite perfect. Question number 6, do you ever do half-star ratings? So in theory, yes, in practice, not as much. In cases like Storygraph where you have the ability to use half-star ratings or quarter-star ratings, I definitely do use them. On Goodreads, there isn't really that much ability to use half-star ratings, even though they really should. So I just round up usually. So if like I rated a book a 3.5, I'll just round it up to a 4. Now if I rated a 3.25, then I'll round it down to a 3-star. But generally speaking, I try to favor rounding up instead of down. When I do book reviews on YouTube or Instagram, I definitely try to include half stars at least, because I think there is a fair difference between a 3, a 3.5, and a 4, right? So, being accurate is important. Question number 7, do you rate books 5 stars very often, and what does a book need to do to be a 5-star read? I won't say that I rate books 5 stars particularly often, but I'm also not like stingy with my 5 stars, if that makes sense. So I think I am fairly cautious with my 5-star reads. I usually have a couple 5-star reads every month. I have definitely had months where I didn't have any 5-star reads, but I don't think I'm like one of those people that's like, oh, I rarely rate anything 5 stars, maybe 1 book a year. Like, I'm not that extreme. For me, a 5-star is a book that I can't think of anything I would change within that book. So the plot is good, the character development is there, the description is good, author is showing instead of telling, the pacing is nice and even, I love everything about the book. I read it and at the end I feel satisfied. I'm not left with that feeling of, oh gee, I loved this book, but I would have changed this or this. So that is what makes a 5-star book for me. And typically, like I said, I end up with maybe 1 to 3 5-star reads every month. Question 8, has your rating of books changed over the years? I don't think so, at least not conscientiously. I would say that since I started reading at such a young age, like, yes, my ratings have changed somewhat, but not necessarily because of the way that I quantify my ratings, more based on the content of what I'm reading changing. Like, obviously a book that I rated really high when I was like 13, now as a 35-year-old woman, I might not rate as high if I reread it. But it doesn't mean that the structure or the criteria for how I rate my books has necessarily changed, just the way that I view each book based on the age that I'm at and the life experience that I have. Question number 9, where do you record your book ratings? Oh man, so I am notoriously bad for recording my book ratings and my reviews. I always start out really optimistic at the beginning of the year, and I'm really good about reviewing like through January. And then I read so many books at such a high rate that inevitably I kind of create a backlog of reviews that I need to catch up on, and then I'm constantly trying to catch up throughout the entire year, and inevitably I never really do. So hypothetically, in theory, I record my ratings on Goodreads and on Storygraph, as well as YouTube and Instagram. Realistically, I record the most feedback on books on YouTube, and then secondary would probably be on Instagram. And then in my mind, I do good with Goodreads and Storygraph, but in reality, not so much. That said, my hope is that this year I will, towards the end of the year, because I have like the last week of the year off from work, I'm gonna probably dedicate like a day to sit down and try to review as much as possible and catch up on all of these reviews. Because I really do wish that I was better at recording my reviews and my thoughts. So that way, like, years down the road, if I'm like trying to remember what I thought of a book, or if I'm trying to remember like which books I loved and stuff, I'd have a little bit more detailed feedback instead of trying to like grasp in my memory for like 400 books ago. So that is the How We Rate Our Books book tag. I hope that you found this interesting. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and comment down below and let me know, how do you rate your books? Do you use DNFs? Do you rate books 1 stars? How about 5 stars? Do you 5-star frequently? And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.